we're going to go on now to perform a book launch. And there I see Tríona ní Shíocháin is coming in. We hope to also welcome Helen Phelan and lovely, and Graham Welch, and Fiona Bulger has joined us there. Very good. Look at that wonderful backdrop. That Graham wins the prize, I think, no question about it, for the best backdrop so far today. And there's Helen. Fantastic. Great. Just to remind everybody as well, as we go into this session, to make sure that your mic is muted. And thanks for your patience with all of that, and the patience of the presenters as we just worked through a few minor background noises and some domestic noises there earlier on. We're clearly all in this together, and so we're all in this strange kind of interface, and it's wonderful. It's really wonderful to be here. For something that's so virtual, it feels incredibly live to me. I'm certainly on the edge of my seat for all sorts of reasons, but enjoying it immensely. So welcome to the launch of this new book, a book, I have to say, that resonates remarkably well with our discussions today. The book, The Artist and Academia, is published this year by Routledge, and the timing, for our purposes at least, could not be better. The book is co-edited by Helen Phelan, Professor of Arts Practice at the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance at the University of Limerick, and Graham Welch, who has held the established chair of music education at UCL Institute of Education London since 2001. A wonderfully diverse group of artists, academics and scholar artists, amongst them Colin Dunn, Christopher Frayling, Oscar Mascarenas, Kathleen Turner, Joseph O'Connor, Jean Downey, Tommy Hayes, Aileen Delan, Mary Noonan and Micheál O'Sullivan contribute to the book. And they write about the relationship between artistic and academic ways of knowing, and offer a variety of philosophical, educational, experiential, reflexive and imaginative perspectives on the artist and academia. I'm delighted that Helen and Graham are here with us today, and both will say a few words shortly. Joining them to launch the book are Fiona Bulger and Tríona ní Shíocháin, both of whom, in their distinctive ways, embody the artist and the academic. Fiona is a poet who lives and writes between Ireland and India. Tríona is a whistle player and sean-nós singer and Professor of Modern Irish and Performing Arts at Maynooth University. And I think, indeed, I know that there may be some poetry and song in this short session. And in anticipation of that, I'm going to pass over directly now to Tríona to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mel. Agus gur maith go bhar fad tosnó mé a scoileann. Géadal síos is mór an priviléid do mé a bheith nuair meascaniuh chun an leabhar even, álinn, ceolmhar, rithimiúil, imirthach, teagurtha, súhinseach, deisbhialach sa, a cheola. Ní leon dáta é a chur na héamh, ach go gurí go séithir úntach sa, go mór leis an ngort, agus go mbeidh éilimh agus tarach na heistí brátheiste gan go ceann bhad. Raig go séithir sach an tairife go mór de sláirí agus de bhíc léin atá séithir ó a ghuist. Nós an taide a líonta hain is séithir é seo a deascair as a gleachtas agus as an eispéiris a líonta hain agus tá sé le molla go háirid. I would like to thank Mel and Helen and Graham and the organising committee for Perspectives, Artistic Practice and Research for inviting me to launch The Artist and Academia with you today. The Irish language poet Shíocháin from County Cork, in his famous philosophical preface to Oedipus Viduige, in which he explores what he considers to be the essential qualities of poetry, remarked that ní ancient dawn ach bheith, or a poem is not to narrate but to exist, or poem is not narrative but existence. This conceptualization by Shíocháin resonates strongly with many of the key arguments that scholars here present put forward in favor of artistic research as a methodology and as a way of being in the world. That artistic research constitutes an intellectual apparatus that breaks through and beyond the boundaries of text, exploring instead the knowledge of artistic practice itself, the hills and vales of creative possibilities or systems of thought in all of their diverse forms. These systems of artistic thought can challenge academia in crucial ways, unsettling the hierarchy of knowledges and sciences to which Foucault refers, for example. Artistic knowledge often also eludes mainstream discourses and practices, living instead in the in-between, in generative spaces or states, sometimes even more powerful because of its dual marginality and yet constant presence. I'm very taken with this book for a number of reasons. I like, for example, that its design tells a story that challenges the fixity of the textual form it embodies. In this sense, it is a little like a takeover or a co-opting of the textual form through artistic thought and expression. The reader is taken through a series of essays interspersed with interludes that allow for artistic voices to interject, and this multivocality lends a beautiful texture to the work as a whole. It is an intimate account, bound by a sense of shared experience from within the generative space of the Irish World Academy. It is a book that allows arts practitioners and researchers to, as Joseph O'Connor might put it, depart into their own country another way. It has a processual or living quality, embracing a sense of in-betweenness and movement. As Anya Peterson-Royce eloquently states in her chapter entitled Landscapes of the In-Between, Artists Mediating Cultures, the in-between is a landscape of possibility and of transformation. It is a place that demands letting go of the known, of the comfort of the familiar, in order to let oneself be the transformation for others. Artists call this home. She continues to say, we only really know landscapes by being embodied in them, walking them, experiencing them through all the senses, rather than seeing representations of them distanced from our living sensory being. The Turnerian conceptualization of experience as an inherently transitional and regenerative process, underpinned, of course, by the etymology of the word, which means to pass through, resonates with all that this book embodies, the lived experience of both world-embracing and world-altering arts practice, and the living history of artistic knowledge's contestation of academia, underpinned by deep and expansive systems of creative thought. The subversive capacity of arts practice and research is a thread that flows through the entire work, and the contributions of the numerous pioneers in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance are particularly stimulating, telling stories from the inside out, as it were, of how a philosophy and ethos literally played out in practice. The role of oral tradition in this story is of particular importance, and the personal reflections on how the place of oral traditional arts was negotiated within pre-existing structures makes an incredible contribution to the field internationally. Though there are too many wonderful essays to mention individually in this book, there is one that I must comment upon, and that is Cultural Redress and the Growth of Love, a guided autoethnography by Professor Micheál O'Sullivan, Banach Déileis agus le Hanamach an Amarv Geleid. This contribution provides us with captivating insight into a journey that revolutionized third-level education, both in Ireland and internationally. Again, the subversiveness of oral traditional practices and their incredible richness of thought and meaning, as well as the bravery of the challenge of that traditional artist posed, is effectively documented. Níor chail fear ná dan a bhishnig riamh, as they say, the man or woman of courage never loses. The artist and academia demonstrates the incredible intellectual contribution of artistic research methodologies to the humanities as a whole, and is an outstanding theoretical contribution in its own right that will foster new thought and understanding. In particular, the eloquent and expert conceptualization of artistic knowledges in Helen Phelan's introduction of The Artist Turned Inside Out makes a distinctive contribution that will enrich artistic and scholarly discourse the world over. It is a conceptualization that beautifully frames the essays and interludes that follow, encompassing distinctive and diverse perspectives. In the concluding paragraph of the book, in a fitting tribute to Mícheál Súilleabháin's outstanding creative mind, Graham Welch refers to the following quote attributed to Picasso: "Every child is an artist," not dissimilar to Seán Ó Ríordáin's famous question and answer, "Cad is filiachtaun agine linnev?" What is poetry? The mind of a child. And Ó Ríordáin, of course, is a poet much admired and quoted by Mícheál Súilleabháin. The sense of dawn or filiocht, or of artistry or poesis in the broadest sense, in all its seriousness and playfulness, and of the experiential knowledge of the arts, is the cuisle or pulse of this beautiful publication. To launch it, I'm going to sing an excerpt from a song by the famed Munster poet Máire Bhí Léire, and I'm going to sing a little bit of one of her Aisling or Vision poems, because this song really shows the revolutionary capacity of oral traditional practices, but it also shows how subversiveness and beauty can fuse in powerful ways. And so I'm going to sing this in homage to the tale of revolution and beauty that continues to unfold in the artist and academia. So we'll see how I get on with this. Sikiara filgare, anno huila mailik baivira koronan aller strohnesk, machri gare yiri dan tir krvasbe. Anta perlan telan ngeretare, na dagna raketre. Nu derde hogra klevas kjön, o dan ishta kalagle, nu vanderogle halat graf. Atula omeger, the laur shilana versig gainin shfam scale. Marnis tuara matahoy charmwis, natagna milhatere. The natives kissed evaluations Stayarochanagel as Nahoradin Maraboserna Gomuch Behafain Anaway. Thank you. I'm going to pass on now to the wonderful Fiona Bulger so that we can hear from the poet.
Thank you so much, Tríona. I don't know how to follow all of that. You mentioned the spidog and the arable, so I feel like you've all had the spidog now and the arable is kind of tagging along behind. I'm so honoured to be here today. Thank you, Mel and Graham and Helen, for giving me this opportunity and a copy of the book, which is sitting, beating here beside me. And so many of the words that I put into what I want to say now have already been mentioned today. And I think all any of us do is we take bits and pieces from here and there and we build a nest. And I think Helen mentioned in her essay also about the building of the nest, taking bits and bobs. So here's my take. This is an amazing collection of ideas. And I'm just going to give a few short comments. I love the title, but I just want to make a few suggestions. Another title might be A Little Book of Love, or The Passion That Can Change the World. Love in English is such, we just shove everything into love. You know, you can love coffee and you can love other people and you love your child. So I'm going to go with the Greek agape, and not the Christian version of it. No, my version of it, which is the love that is for everything, for all people everywhere in the world, wanting only beauty and happiness for everyone. And it's a love that I think children feel sometimes, hopefully a lot of the time. Dana Delaney, in conversation with Owen O'Sullivan, describes that childhood love impulse and then says, the initial spark is very pure, and so there is a kind of wanting to constantly reclaim it, but you have to be present. And that's where, as an adult, I think you have a responsibility as an artist to translate that into something that serves the world. This is a book of love. And this love impulse is there as a thread through many, if not all, of the essays and the interludes. In Micheál's essay, it appears even in the title, which when I came to it just made me smile. I think of Micheál and I think of love, of art and artists and the world. The word thread I've just used. In Sanskrit, the word is sutra. And in theatre, the word sutradhar is the person who does the connecting. And in English, we've taken the word in as suture. So that word thread, suture, you know, when we sew up a wound. And the narrator, So in many ways, Micheál's autoethnographic piece describes the threads he brought, the sutra that he brought from Cork and from Belfast. And if you think of Ireland, bringing the sutra, the sutradhar, and suturing. And in a way, the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance is a place of suturing, of bringing together, of healing. But this agape, it's not some pastel colored Valentine's heart. It is flesh and blood and beating and life-giving and dangerous. And Mary Noonan describes how Siobhán Davitt speaks of the final phase of the choreographic process. She realized that the materials had eaten her initial idea. There was nothing but the bare bones left. So I'm saying that if you're too close to your idea, the material could eat you too, or consume you. This isn't any easy kind of love. Another title I'd like to suggest, very arrogant of me here, cheeky brat that I am, is How to Start a Revolution and Get Funded, which is always a good thing. Funding works. Just as there is love for the arts and for humanity and passion to make art and make the world anew throughout, there's also a very practical how-to guide and ways and means to do this. And Micheál describes how if foreign language speakers were with expertise in their language, but no academic experience or qualifications were allowed inside the academy, then why can't we do this with traditional musicians? And by bringing them in, the academy began to change the musician's role. They moved between being an artist, a teacher, a student, and a researcher, and everything began to change. He describes in Cork how, you know, the classical music people also began to change. So it's kind of a little roadmap for a revolution. We humans, when we come together, even if it's on Zoom, and I have to say, Zoom isn't the worst. We learn first somatically, our bodies connect and speak to each other. And then affectively, we begin to feel differently. And then our minds, and they get turned inside out, to use Helen's, the Yeatsian phrase that Helen riffs on in her essay. This book provides many ways to turn your mind inside out and become a better artist and citizen and lover to all. Anya Peterson-Roy tells us the literal translation of Zapotec is cloud language. And in Kerala, Malayalam literally means the language of the mountains. And this book is written throughout in a living language, a language of love, which brings oxygen and energy to the idea of arts, practice, research in the academy. Sometimes people ask, how do you know if a poem works? And I say, if you listen to it, if you cannot hear the beating heart when you listen to the poem, di-dum, 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 then it's just poem-like, but it's not really a poem. And this book, I invite you, if you have a copy, to put it to your ear. And if you cannot hear di-dum, 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 then I think you need to improve your listening. This book, it's alive. So, more on love. If you could put up my poem now, please. So I'm actually a poet, and this poem, I think it'll come up in a moment, is called A Lancaster Plays with Quantum Reality. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I went to a talk on quantum reality and how things can be and not be in the same place at the same time. There are a few little words here that I might just mention. Lancaster is a person who translates between languages. Lob is actually playing with that different pronunciation of the word love. Ishq is the word for love or desire, which is used in Farsi and Urdu. Pyar is the more Sanskrit-based love. And pigeon, some people say it comes from the Chinese pronunciation of the word business. A Lancaster plays with quantum reality. We are doing lob pigeon, lobbing our words back and forth. You ishq mine and I pyar yours. Back and forth we lob these loves. Each time they fly back and forth, they exist in me and you. I cannot hold all the words in my head, or even all of one word. Right now, a little piece of this exists inside your head. And I'll hand you back to the wonderful Helen Phelan to continue.
Thank you so much, Fiona and Tríona. I have to admit to being a little overwhelmed by your words, the power of your song and your voices and all the presentations we heard this morning. So bear with me as I try to get through this, and thanks to everybody for the great power of this gathering. This book, as you have heard, is about the changing relationship between artists and academia, which is of course so central to the focus of our gathering today. It's grounded in and it emerges from, as you have heard, the first 20 years of an educational experiment called the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance. It was an experiment which sought to find and create parity of esteem for all cultures, for all performance genres, and between all those who expressed and engaged and were passionate about the arts through their pens, their pianos, their books, their bodhráns, and their bodies. Going through the artist and academia contributions for me is like being in a room of people that I admire. Pioneering colleagues from the early days of the Irish World Academy, including Mary Noonan and Catherine Foley, who forged new paths for dance in higher education. Current Academy colleagues, Jean Downey, Orlan Ivrian, Tríona McCaffrey, Olive Beecher, Hilary Moss, and the wonderful Aileen Delan, who you've heard this morning, who continue to innovate in music education, music therapy, ethnomusicology, ethnochoreology, music, and dance. Students turned colleagues and poets and songwriters, including Oscar Mascarenhas and also the extraordinary Kathleen Turner, who you heard this morning, colleagues from the wider university community, Joseph O'Connor, Amanda Clifford, Joanne Shanahan, and colleagues and friends from around the world, some of whom are with us today: Christopher Frayling, Anya Peterson-Royce, Mary McCarthy, David Elliott, Marissa Silverman, and Nigel Osborne, all among the first to champion the work of the Academy on an international stage. Dancers, musicians, photographers, sculptors, actors, singers, Tommy Hayes, Raz Mikey Courtney, Colin Dunn, Laura Murphy, Alan Doyle, Dana Delaney, Maurice Gunning, and Aaron Lawless, whose stellar international journeys have crossed paths with those of the Academy. I would like to thank them all today for the gift of their artistry, their reflexive eloquence, their generous contributions, and their patience throughout the twists and turns of this publication. Most of all, I would like to thank my co-editor, Graham Welch. I have long known and admired Graham's academic brilliance and his lifelong advocacy for the right of every child to have access to music and the arts. But through the process of this publication, I have also learned a great deal about his kindness. The publication stalled at a very challenging time for our family, for my lovely son Luke and his brothers Owen and Molly, and every couple of weeks I would receive an email from Graham saying, take the time that you need, we will finish when you are ready. Academia can be a cold space at times, and Graham embodies the art and the heart of the best that it has to offer. This book is dedicated to a great artist, a great academic, and my great love, Micheál O'Sullivan. It emerges from the 20th anniversary convocation of the Irish World Academy. And when I look at this collection and our speakers today, I know that he would be proud to be in this good company and to know that his work has passed to such good hands. So before handing over to Graham, let me finish with some lines from Micheál's own essay, picking up on the words of his own mentor, the great musician and academic John Blacking, picking up indeed on Fiona's words of love, agus scrá. And he writes that at the end, it is love that is at the heart of our ability to be human and to culturally, reflexively, and creatively express our humanity. Thank you so much, and I'm going to pass you over to Graham Welch.
Wonderful, thank you very much, Helen. I'm not sure I deserve all those kind words, but it's been a real joy working with you and all of these wonderful, amazing artists and authors. We launched this book series in 2009 with Ashgate, the Society for Education, Music, Psychology Research, SEMPRE, that I'm the chair of. We felt that at that time we had one journal, we've now got 3, but we felt that we weren't reaching the widest audience. And so we decided, by talking with Ashgate, that we felt that we needed to launch a book series which might reach out, particularly to parts of the world where journal access is relatively limited. And part of our deal was that we would get hard copies that we could actually send out to other parts of the world where the library systems and Wi-Fi access wasn't very good. This series was then taken over by Routledge, and we've now got 38 books in the series. However, I have to say with you, as the lead series editor, this is a unique book. And for me, it's the thing, I suppose, that I'm most proud, because for me, it was a real journey of learning about other artists, about the ways that the arts can be represented in lots and lots of different places around the world. Particularly for us as a publisher and as a society, it was the first book which had a multi-arts perspective. It had this mix of essays and interludes, which our publishers couldn't understand. Are you sure they're not all chapters? I mean, can't we just call them chapters? You know, no, we can't. And we also, Helen's a wonderful idea that we'd have this kind of introductory image at the beginning of each chapter of something that was salient for the author. And that was also a challenge and a kind of novelty for us. So for me, although it's a book, it's one of the first kind of multi-arts, both in its content, but also in its kind of presentation. And it's, as we said, it's been a celebration of this vision and energy of Micheál. You know, when he had this bright idea while we were having this anniversary of, why don't you edit a book? You know, wouldn't that be a nice way? You know, Then you say, oh yeah, but it's only going to take 7 years. You just hope that all these these different parts of that journey, I think, are refined it and are reflected in the joy and the passion, lifelong joy and passion of the authors, and also the affirmation that they have for the arts. I mean, I particularly like Christopher's reminder to me, reading it, of what it was like for him to be a doctoral student. And that had a kind of enormous resonance, that we all have these wonderful episodes in our lives. We're all so busy. We're so busy doing things, and perhaps we're busy teaching, but we are full of all of these wonderful episodes, and something about sharing those episodes suddenly reminds us about the importance of the arts in humanity. And as you know, my lifelong commitment to the arts, particularly for children, because we are artistic by design, despite what governments think. So thank you ever so much for giving me the opportunity to be here today, and to have this opportunity to work closely with Helen, who's been tireless in pushing this on, and all our wonderful authors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Graham and Helen and Tríona and Fiona. I mean, I find it hard to imagine how launches could come any better than that. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Congratulations, Helen and Graham, on the publication of the book. It's a fantastic, extraordinary achievement. I know that it's been long in the making, and I'm really looking forward to reading it and to finding out more about my so many of my colleagues through their writings there. Thank you also to Tríona and Fiona for fantastic launch speeches and contributions. I think you may be getting invitations far and wide to duet on many other books, and it was really wonderful. Thank you all also from the bottom of my heart for bringing Micheál so strongly into the room with us today. That's a great gift, and I know he'll stay with us. He's been with us this morning, and he will certainly stay with us for the rest of the day. So thank you very much for that. It is time to break for lunch. We've had a wonderful morning, and so much to digest over lunchtime, and so we will take a break now until 2 o'clock. And if you can join us just a little before 2, so that we're in time to start the next session, and you'll get to hear Tríona again. I think you may hear some more singing as well from Tríona. We're going to hear from the artist Brian Fay, and also from the sound artist Danny McCarthy in our next session. So really looking forward to that, and really looking forward to seeing you again in less than an hour. You can stay on the meeting, or else you can check back in again once you have the same link. Thank you so much, and enjoy your lunch. Bye bye.